just trying my best to get the words out. Does that make any sense at all? You have any idea what I'm trying to say here? I was talking last night with one of my friends who also happens to be a writer, and he asked me a very thought-provoking question. And it's a question I'm going to ask you for the first time here while we are sitting recording this video. And then after I ask that, I'm going to give my answer, give you some time to think about yours, and then I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
So I haven't heard this before. I have no idea what he is going to ask.
And it was a very simple question. It was, why do you write? And thinking through that a little bit as I gave him my answer, and then a little bit afterwards, I think I have kind of three parts to my answer, and not really in any particular order. One of those parts is I write because I've made a commitment to myself, to you as the audience, that we are going to write a book. And because I've made that commitment, I want to follow through with it. Another part is, as we have gone along this journey, we have gotten this story that we like. And part of why I write is because I have this story that I want to tell. And then on a little bit deeper of a level, I think there's a message there that I want to share. So those are really the three parts for me. Is I've made a commitment, I've got a story to tell, and I've got a message to share. But I'm curious what your thoughts are. How would you answer that question? Why do you write?
Wow, there's a lot of kind of backstory to why I write. I think I shared some of this in some of the earlier episodes, that there are some themes, some messages that I really want to be able to communicate, some truths. I was having breakfast with a mentor of mine this morning, and I was sharing with him part of an exercise that I just went through. It's an exercise that I give my coaching clients, which is about discovering your personal values. It's an exercise I had done a couple of years ago, but I was having a conversation with another coach, and we recognized that there's some value in reevaluating, in taking that assessment again. So I took it again last week, and of the umbrella values that are really mine, that if I take all the things that I value, that are the motivation for why I do the things that I do, why I am encouraged, why I'm attracted to different things, there were two themes that I uncovered last time. One was the theme of beauty, both receiving it and creating it. And the other was integrity. And that has a whole bunch of different meanings to it. It can be both morality and ethics. It can also be completion. Once you start something, you don't leave it half finished. Integrity is completing what you started. So both of those, both beauty, the creation of beauty, and the integrity of completing what I've started, it relates to what you were saying. I made a commitment, but both of those play a part in why I do what I do, including writing. But this time I did the exercise, there was a third component, a third kind of umbrella that showed up, and that was the umbrella of legacy. And that was the conversation that I was having with my mentor this morning at breakfast. What is the value of legacy? I'm sitting here in my early to mid 50s. He's in his 70s. To him, the value of legacy and what am I going to leave behind is far more front of mind. For me, it's a little front of mind. It's enough that it motivates me to not just write for the sake of writing, but why even the goal of being a New York Times bestseller was part of even the conversation. I realize now, looking back, that legacy has a big part to do with that, of having that. There's another episode where I think the little teaser, 5-second teaser at the beginning was impact, impact, impact. We keep using that word. That's all part of that legacy. Having an impact, making a difference that will last far beyond just the time that it takes to do the activity. So that would be one big piece of it. If I can continue to go, another area is one of my challenges that I think may come across sometimes here is it takes a lot. And I love the way a Facebook post put it, how much braining it takes to make the words go. And as I'm reviewing, editing, captioning, doing the subtitles for these videos, I realize how clumsy my real-time communication often can be. One of the things that I like about writing is the opportunity to step back and analyze. And my tendency is, even when speaking, I will freeze, and I often end up talking like this because I'm trying to find just the right word. I know there's a word for this and it's not coming to mind. Writing gives the opportunity to find that the right word. I think it was Mark Twain who said the difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between the lightning and the lightning bug. So the ability to have a lasting impact that goes beyond just the time that it takes to do the work, and the ability to take some time to refine the message. Just real quick, as a reaction to the question, why do I write?
Yeah.
Those are probably the two big themes around why I write.
I like what you shared about being able to take the time to craft the message the way that you want it to appear. Because I've had times when talking with friends where I'll be trying to share my thoughts about something, and especially if it's the first time I'm expressing those thoughts, and it's just trying to figure out what do I actually think about this, or how does this apply in the specific situation, and I'll find myself just trying my best to get the words out. Does that make any sense at all? Do you have any idea what I'm trying to say here? And being able to write instead of just talk, it gives you the chance to put something down, look back over it, ask yourself, does this make any sense? And refine it until it's actually what you want to be able to present to people. That is a benefit of writing over something like public speaking, especially impromptu speaking.
And the idea of refining, there's a quote. I come to these not knowing what quotes I want to share, so I may not have this quite right. Writing would give the opportunity to go back and research and make sure that I got it right. But it was something like, thoughts disentangle themselves when passing through lips and pencil tips. Many people will write in order to discover what they think.
Yeah.
I write a little quick, I call it a musing, and I publish 2 every week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, on my LinkedIn social media profiles. Excuse me. And very many times it's about leadership in the corporate world, and it is during that process of figuring out exactly how do I want to say this that I'll sit there and unsure of what to write, because I'm unsure of what I even think. Many times, even what I talked about, even in the earlier stages, when I was preparing to write a nonfiction book, in the preparation, I realized I don't know whether this is even true. I don't know whether I really believe this that I'm about to say. And that is why I decided to take some of these themes and move them into a fiction setting versus a nonfiction setting, so that they could be explored more as what ifs than as fact.
Yeah. So that is why we write a hopefully something in that what was interesting and valuable.
That's why we write, at least what we're able to think of today. Even one of our previous videos we talked about, when somebody asks us why, very often whatever happens to come up in the moment, we could end this recording and I could immediately think, oh, wait, no, this is an even bigger reason.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, I think I've had a little bit more time than you to think about it. So I feel a little bit more confident in my whys for why I write. But we'll ask you the question, why do you write? Let us know in the comments, and we will see you next week.